Thank you so much for coming. I hope I can teach you something. Even if I can't teach you anything, uh, maybe I just love you for helping support me and what we're trying to do. Um, so here's what we're gonna do today. I'm turn this music down here. We are going to um, we're gonna go to a friend of mine, Eldritch Foundry. Uh, I should probably start off with saying like my name's Ty. Um, I own TableFlip Foundry. We do a whole bunch of tabletop gaming related stuff. Tonight we're talking about 3D printing for tabletop and how to support models for resin printing. Good friend of the company or the business, Eldritch Foundry, has like a fantastic website. If you can't find a model you're looking for, you can go to their website and you can like custom design a model. So we're going to actually do that today. We're going to go through their website. I've actually got a special discount code for you guys in case any of you want to just kind of make your own thing or you want to make a gift for somebody. You get 15% off when you order from them. So we're going to design. I don't know what we're going to design. I'm just going to make up some wacky character from Eldritch Foundry tonight. And then we are going to learn how to take the exported file from Eldritch Foundry, split the base from the model. So you're going to learn how to do that in both Blender and Meshmixer. And then we're going to take it directly into Lychee Slicer. They were nice enough to help me kind of get the word out for this. That is all I use for our pre-support work is Lychee Slicer Pro. We're going to talk about support settings, support functions, what types of supports there are, when to use them, when not to use them, tons of different like tips and tricks to help you remember what to put and where. I have no idea how long this class is going to be, as long as it takes. So as long as you guys stick with me, I'll just keep going. What I'll do is I have a tendency to read the chat while I'm trying to talk, and I'm struggling to like do two things at once. So what I'll do is if you guys want to chat, feel free. If I don't respond, please don't take offense. I'm going to try to like stay focused. And then what I'll do is I'll stop in between each step, ask and see if anybody has any questions or concerns. I love input from you. So like Zeomar's in the chat. He actually works for TableFlip Foundry. He is one of our pre-supporters. He also does the pre-supports for Twin Goddess. So if you're part of that Patreon, he's the guy to thank for the sports there. He may chime in every now and again with a little tip that I might have forgotten. If you have any tips you want to share, I'll do my best to see them and maybe acknowledge them or give my opinion. My opinion may be that the tip is not very good. So bear with me. I'll try to be polite. Hey, welcome. So we're just going to kind of go over the ins and outs. Hey, welcome, man. 6, no good. From Red Clay. Oh, I almost forgot. Tonight, we are going to also showcase to you a model that Red Clay Collectibles is putting out from the Null set that's coming out in December. It's like, oh, it's very good. So we'll touch on Red Clay later after our Eldritch Foundry model goes through. We're going to take a look at that. We're probably going to do some pre-supports. Takes about an hour to pre-support one of his models, so we may not get all the way through it, but we're going to talk about some ins and outs. We're going to talk about the ins and outs of how to support something a little more complex. So the great thing is Eldritch Foundry models, while they have some difficulties, for the most part, they're very like simplified models, and they're fairly easy to support. And then we're going to get into something high detail from a fantastic creator here. For like the tabletop community. So anyway, let's take a look at Eldritch Foundry. I think everybody who's coming is probably here, hopefully. Let's have a look at Eldritch Foundry. There it is. So when you go, I can actually post a link, but if you guys want to just write this down, you can use coupon code TableFlip15. That'll give you 15% off your purchase. These models are only like $4. Like anytime you need custom, you can't find it, you should go here first and have a look and see if you can design something you really like. And even without 15% off, like $4 for a custom made model is really good. As long as you know what to do after the fact, that's what we're here to figure out today. So So I have no clue what we're gonna make. Let's have just a little browse around, see what they have. They've got elves, they got furbolgs, little half elf, little shorter ears. Some, they've got to. I think they've got to name them certain things. I don't think they're allowed to use the T word. So the Demonborns, some kits. I like those. That's kind of like always my go-to. Is like people or the lion people. Half orcs, pretty cool. Goblin. Actually, I should click these. Let me click these while we're going. I don't know how long the loading time is. There's a little goblin guy. Look at this. An avatar. Dang, that is cool. And if you guys didn't see, I think you can late pledge to it, but Velrock Art just finished a huge Dragonborn set on Kickstarter, if you didn't get a chance to see that. Goliath. I bet this dude's big. He's a beefy boy. What do you guys think? We've got a dwarf. Yeah, they did a Kickstarter recently, and they added mounts. Look at this. Oh, I like this. Guys, I think I gotta do this. That's just too cool. They added mounts. And we can kind of take a look at some of this stuff, but I'm gonna do a beefy boy Wargast. I like this right here. Alright, let's take a look at the heads. You want horns? Like a robot ram? Like ram horns? How about a moose? I don't think moose is right. Oh man, look at that. I don't know that I'm going to do horns on this guy, but I mean, come on. Can you imagine seeing that like a demon bot? That'd be great. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna do horns. I don't think I don't think these guys have hair. I think I'm gonna do hairless, but let's look at some of the styles. Although that is, I don't think Warforged have hair, but if they did, like, I am kind of digging the. Maybe it could be a wig. They could be a cybernetic. It could be carbon fiber hair or something. Wow, they've got a lot of really cool hairstyles. A lot of female ones. Oh, look at those cornrows. It's Prison Bot. Let's see. Oh man, that's just too pretty. I can't be that pretty. Can't have that much nice hair when you're rocking a half a head full like I do. Look at that though. Flaming hair. You know, I don't care if robots or if Warforged don't have mohawks. We're going with a mohawk. We can look at eyebrows, although I don't think that's necessary here. We got 3 different types of eyes. I kind of like, that feels a little more aggressive to me, like angry. This feels a little more happy. Is my guy an angry dude? Yeah, these could just be wires. I'm kind of liking this. I'm liking this. Now he's got ears, but he's got the robot ears. Are we gonna make him cyborg or android or whatever? Oh, he's got little doggy ears. Or cow ears. They've got such there we go. Just toilet plungers. I think we're gonna go with the robot ears. I like these. Or no ears. I'm feeling the robot ears, like he's wearing headphones. It's pretty cool. Guys, does my robot need a beard? So he matches me? Tell me you wouldn't be intrigued by a bearded mohawked Warforged. I think I kind of have to. He kind of needs a beard. So we've got some like built-in expressions. I don't want to go into every single detail here. I'll leave some up for you to explore. He's a little happy there. Oh, Look at that angry face. I like that. I didn't know they did this. Even the back, see the back of the head? It's more menacing. He's oh, you know what we could do? Let me go back. Our mascot Puck is he's an angry little dragonborn. We could yeah, maybe we can make like a quick little Puck. I'm gonna go back to my Warforged, but I want to see what I can do here. So upper body. Okay, okay. I didn't even look at that. Puck is a little shorter. He's just a little guy. He's an angry little guy. He does have kind of a big head, so we're going there. Yeah, we're using this tail. Puck doesn't have a belly at all. This is actually a pretty good... That's pretty good. And you know, his horns are slightly different. Hey. He's a dragonborn. Not a kobold. Alright, I think these little devil horns are really close. And honestly, there's not hair that matches, but that mohawk... That's not a... That's not mohawk. Where is it? Do they not have a mohawk for this? They don't. I'm gonna have to write a strongly worded letter to Eldritch Foundry that they don't have a mohawk for the Dragonborn. Oh, that makes me sad. That's okay. We'll ditch the hair. I don't think they have eyebrows. We're okay with that. Ears. I don't think we have ears. That's cool. He definitely doesn't have a beard. He's definitely angry. He's an angry little dude. Alright, let's have a... Let me go back. This didn't turn out like I wanted. We're going to go back. We're going to do this. This Wargast. We're going to give him no horns. Or did we do horns? I can't remember. I think we did just the mohawk. Hair. Pompadour. There it is. Yes. There's my angry bro. And then I didn't look at the size of him. Oh! Look at that dude. Big old shoulders. Let's bring his chest out. Dude's got pecs. You know what's a little weird though? He always goes to the gym and he never misses leg day. It might give him a little junk in the trunk. Oh yeah, this is a hero right here. Look at this guy. Alright, he needs a beard. I don't know if I like the old Dutch beard. I think I like the old Dutch beard. I don't think I like the mustache. Go on this one. Alright, let's have a look. There are some super cool outfits on here. I really like that. That's called the Osric. That one's pretty cool too. Got like a little hint of Spartan. Are you kidding? Look at that. Are you kidding me? Warforged Samurai? That is cool. Little lumberjack uniform, khakis. I don't know what that is. That's not what we're about today. Those are cool. Just gonna kind of click through these. He's definitely not a sorceress, but pretty cool. That half plate. There's some leather armor. That leather armor is really cool. I like how fitted it is. Like, it's very roguish. Here's a monk. A pugilist. This is a doom bard. I love it. I'm pretty partial to this, I'm not gonna lie. I really like that. They can have helmets and hats and stuff. They've got such a great selection here. Man, you could just... Oh, man, that's... We gotta rock the mohawk and beard, so I can't do a hat or helmet. In fact, his beard gets all chewed up by the armor here. I think maybe I might lose the beard. It's not bad, but I think I'm gonna lose the beard. I think he's gonna be younger. Okay, shoulders. There's all sorts of different armors, gloves. You don't have to use one of the outfits. You can definitely piece it together yourself. Oh, these are cool. Do you think my guy's like... Ah, yes! Look at that! Tell me that's not awesome. My dude's not that cool. Oh, these are great. Maybe he lost an eye in the war. Oh, yeah, as a paint job, that'd be cool. Instead of hair, that'd be fire. I could paint it with fire. Guys, I might have to do that. That's a great idea. And I think I like the eye patch. I'm not gonna lie. I'm digging it. We're going with it. Alright, what kind of weapon does my guy use here? Alright, we got axes, ranged weapons, lots of bows, crossbows. Oh, there's dynamic chains. Oh, that's really cool. Oh, so it says that you can use the dynamic chain with an STL download. It's only for a printed download. We got some daggers. Some standard swords. A scimitar, a beam sword. Some moon blades. That's a big sword right there. Scimitar. Oh, and you can pick which hand. That's awesome. Whew. Katana. Oh, that's a chunky katana right there. Let's see. Oh, you know what? I might need to scale. I need to scale my guy up a little. I'm not gonna lie, those Viking axes though. Let's see what else we got. Pole arms. There's a spear. Oh. If they had like a cyber scythe. Still, I'm digging that. They got shields. Oh, look at that shield. Ah, that's cool. Guys, the selection here is really impressive. Magic focus. Oh, they have different focuses for mages. That's really cool. Wands, effects. Is he holding fire in his hand like in a mage hand? Oh, geez, these are so cool. All sorts of different. You can make like a chalet. I didn't see a chalet, but I'm sure there's one in here somewhere. Of some sort. I would think they would have it. So there's all sorts of stuff. You can make townsfolks. Yeah, Dot, that's a great example. Let's do a cool shield. I want something that just sort of fits him, like fits his style. Now this would be interesting to support. Absolutely. Shark fin shield. Actually, I'm not gonna lie, I really dig that. And I think I found a... Now that's feeling pretty sharp to me. I'm liking the shape on that. It feels very modern. I found a sword earlier, but I honestly... Oh, the axes. You know, everybody does a sword. Did I miss the axes? Where are the axes? Polearm, shield, dagger, axe. That, like, runic axe and shield. I really dig that. Let's go with that. I don't think he's going to carry anything on his back, although they have bunches of cool stuff. Maybe he does carry, like, something. Just as backup. Maybe he's also sort of ninja. Let's just go with him, just like that. Any pouches or anything? I think we're good. We can pose him. Let's have a look. They got some preset poses. It's not a bad pose. That's a good pose with a shield for sure. That's me right there, just getting old. I kind of like this. It feels very like a ready stance. Let's go with this. So you got some options with bases. If you want a base, you can get a base. There's some traditional round bases. I'm always partial to flagstone. I'm a round base kind of person. They've got some effects you can throw in there. Flames and stuff. Are you kidding? Look at that. Void shield. You could print that in like clear. You could print that base in clear and tint it blue and it would look like a mage shield. Maybe not for this guy, but like, you know, as a mage you have the shield spell. You can have that. I didn't know they had these. Those are really cool. They have some items you can put on there, like here's an anvil. Little gemstone. I'm not really sure on the items, honestly. We're just going to go simple. Now, they do have mounts. So that's him on a horse. And are you kidding? Look at this. Look at the direwolf mount. That's just way too good. No mounts on this one tonight. We're keeping it simple. All right, guys, so we're going to do a digital download. I put my character name on there. What should we name him? We're going to name him Fuse. All right, we're doing a digital download. We're going to go to checkout. You guys ever need to get a hold of me, that's our email address, tableflipfoundry@gmail.com. United States here. You guys don't get my credit card number today. I'm sorry. But we do get a promo code. Hey, it's 60 cents, but it's money. All right, guys, I'm going to pull this off screen real quick. Let's get this info in there. One moment, please. All right, get back to it. All right, what did I buy? I bought a digital file. Would you rate your... Guys, I think that was pretty good. What did I love most? I was really surprised at all the options. What stopped you from... Nothing. Nothing almost stopped me from completing the purchase. All right, we got to tweet this, guys. We're going to live tweet it here. Nice. There we go. All right, it's been placed. An email's on the way. We're gonna let me check my email real quick. My order was received. It's now being processed. We'll let you know as soon as it's ready, they said. Awesome. Well, let's talk, while we're waiting for that, let's talk about some of the other tools we're going to use tonight. One of them is, actually both of them are absolutely free. I would definitely recommend anybody get them. The first one is Blender. The other one is Meshmixer. Meshmixer, we're gonna start with. It's a very straightforward program. It is quite powerful as far as what it's capable of, but it's limited compared to, let's say, like ZBrush or Blender or Maya, one of those programs. But most of the time, I'm using Meshmixer in order to like repair a file, or they've got a really good analyzer in there that will check out a file and tell you if there's any problems with the mesh, or see if there's any holes, or you know, just any problems anywhere. So I'm not sure how they're actually gonna get a hold of me when my order's ready. Yeah, absolutely, Cat Herder. We are going to... I've got it recording right now. I'm going to upload it to our YouTube channel. It's not like a huge YouTube channel, but that seems to be the best place. The reason we have nothing saved on our Twitch, I really wanted to be able to stream every week, but that was a really hard thing to accomplish. I don't really have... Hey, our link is ready. I don't really have like the bandwidth time-wise to do it weekly, and it seems like they only hold on to your last session for like a week or 2 weeks, and then it drops off. Yeah, I got an email here. We are ready. We're gonna download it now. I think we're gonna download it now. Actually, close the window. Oh no, come on. That's you can also download it from your order history on eldritchfoundry.com. Let's do that. I don't know if I have a login. I must have a login here. Login. Sorry, guys. I didn't know this was going to happen. We're going to figure it out, though. All right. Okay, so I should have log out, lore, profile, home. I'm still learning this software. Well, shoot, you guys. Download it now. I have like a pop-up blocker, an ad blocker that could be causing me some troubles. I apologize. I'm 99% certain I am the reason this is not working. Okay, let's log in. Log in with Google. I don't know how dangerous it is to show those types of things on stream. I'm sure you guys will let me know. So, profile, no, home. I got my email, but when I click my email, it's not opening. And I'm redeem a gift. What do I do, you guys? What do I do? I don't know what to do. I really, really want to do this. And I feel like I messed it up. Yeah, it's ad block. I wonder if it's ad block. Disable ad block on... No, I let it go. Yeah, the thing is, I bought it. Yeah, I actually turned off. So in my email, I turned off. I mean, I can turn off my ad block here too. There's an order history on the main menu, but it's not highlighted. So the thing is, I don't think I was logged in when I bought it. Yeah, order history. So I bought it. Okay, maybe I was logged into a different account. I don't recall logging in, but let me try to log in under a different account here. I'm so sorry, guys. This is... I thought I was ready, and no matter how ready I thought I was, I'm still new at what I'm doing here. Yeah, I must have checked out as a guest. So here's what we're gonna do. We are gonna log out. We're gonna log back in, and we're just gonna order it again using my promo code. Log in with Google. And then what we'll do is we'll I can guarantee is that's yeah, right. That's what's that? There's a law for that, right? It's I can't remember what the term is. If anything bad can happen, it will happen. Murphy's Law, that's it. All right, let's try this again. Let's check out the United States. See, I put my email address in there, and it didn't seem to make me an account. That's okay. Just go to your email and follow the link it gave first. Okay, 1 second. Your order was received. Track your... I've got an order number. Try one more time. I am happy to just buy another one if that's necessary. Okay. Yeah, I clicked the link. Download it now. A window pops up. Here, I'll show you guys. Window pops up and then disappears, and then I don't get like a little download thing. So I'm going to try to do it this way. Let me use your saved information. Oh, they just sent me a text. Oh, they've got two-step validation. I am all about that. Security, you guys. All right, we are adding my promo code. Click and pay. That's TableFlip 15. Yeah, it could be a Gmail thing. Probably not. It's got to be me. I probably did something, I would guess. So they're going to shoot me another email. But I have to wait for them to process it. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I've browser site before. I've tested it out before, like even before tonight. And hey, Tibus, how's it going? Hopefully, Tibus. I would love clarification on that. Order history. I'm guessing if I try to load it directly from here, I'll be able to click it. Hey, Lychee in the house. Okay, so Tibus. Is it pronounced Tibus or Tibus? And how do you guys pronounce Lychee? Lychee. All right. Okay, just waiting on the email from Eldritch Foundry again. Order was received. I got a receipt. Perfect. Order received. Perfect. All right. So let's talk about Meshmixer a little bit, because we're gonna use Meshmixer to separate out the parts for this. So what will happen is I actually, well, I don't want to show those yet because they're the model, like our guy Fuse is going to come with the base next to him, but they're going to come in the same STL. Now we can pre-support them in that STL, and that's totally fine. If you don't want to go through this process, just know that you can't like move them around or shift them or separate them or rotate one different than the other. You become sort of like locked into to just that one file. So what we're going to do is we're going to take them, separate them out, save them as 2 STLs, and then we'll be able to pull each one into Lychee. Hey, Julian, how's it going? Hi from Lychee. Lychee. I pronounce it Lychee too. If you guys have not used Lychee Slicer, and I know at least one of you guys just uses, the Photon Slicer. We are going to change your mind tonight. That's going to happen. Zio, it's pronounced Lychee. That's it. It's over. The debate is over. All right, guys. I apologize. I should have sorted some of this stuff out ahead of time. Anyway, so once we separate the shells, we're going to save them as STLs, and then we're going to import them. There we go. My link is ready. All right. Let's load up. Here it is. I sure hope this works. Order history. Check out that bad boy. There we go. All right. Yeah. Sign up for an account, guys. I definitely messed that up logging in as a guest. All right. Let's have a little quick look. So what you're going to get is a RAR or a zip file. You're going to want to unzip it, and we're now going to import our STL. Come on. Okay, I have a folder for this. All right, it's loading up. We are cooking with fire. All right. Meshmixer can be kind of a heavy program for your computer sometimes. It's an excellent program, especially for how simple they make a lot of these tools. Sometimes it bogs down. They're also, I've saved that file on a cloud storage already. So I may have to go back and load it directly from my hard drive because it might be trying to communicate with cloud storage and not liking it. So let's reopen Meshmixer here. This isn't a Meshmixer class, so we want to get through this quickly. Come on, Meshmixer. If not, we'll just switch over to Blender, and then we'll go from Blender if we have to. I am partial to Blender. I do just about everything in Blender while I can. While Meshmixer is thinking. All right, you guys see how this file is? Oh, you know, I forgot to save the base. That's okay. We're going to use this base. The file is attached, so if we wanted to select this, you'll see that these two objects are attached to each other. We want to... All right, Blender it is. I'm so sorry, Meshmixer. We're not waiting today. All right, so... Blender. This is Blender. Welcome. It's free. You can download it, play with it. It's so powerful. First thing we're going to do is we're going to hit A to select everything. You got to delete the cube. And I don't like the light in the camera. We're starting fresh. We're going to import an STL. Oh, you can't see it. I'm so sorry, guys. Screen share. There we go. My bad. I'm trying, guys. I'm sorry. Okay, so we're going to... I'm not sharing my background. There we go. That's better. Let me reopen Blender so you can get... Anybody who's never used it, let's start from scratch here. And we're going to move through this part quick. You can go back and watch it on the VOD. I don't want to eat too much time here. We want to get into supports. We're going to hit A to select all. We're going to delete it all. We're going to go to File, File, Import, STL. We're going to open up, oops, not that folder. We're going to open up this folder here. We're going to use this split. The unified one is the model on the base. General rule of thumb is you want them separate. So let's open that file. It's going to import them here into the Blender. Here they are. I won't give you any Blender tutorials on how to control the screen. That's going to be up to you. But here's our model. They are one object. If we grab them, they move together. At the top right, we're going to go to wireframe. This is important, and I'll show you why it's important. We're going to go from object mode into edit mode, and this is going to bring us to the point where we can see all of the little like mathematic dots, the vertices of the object. But let's say I want to select the base. I only selected the vertices I can see there. The other way to select an object is to hit the L button, but you see it only selected the shield. I'd have to go L, 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 and grab all of these different objects. So the way I get around that is I go to wireframe and then I select. And now I can select the whole object. I'm going to hit P for separate. Now these two objects are separate from each other. So I can go back into object mode. I use the tab button for that. This object is now separate from this object. So we're going to go ahead and export that file as STL. We're going to drop that into our original file with a new name. We name this body. And then this is really important or you're going to be very confused. Up here, you guys can't see it. I'm so sorry. It's on the wrong screen. Up here, you want to click selection only. If you don't click selection only, it's going to export exactly the same way you started. So click selection only. We have the body selected. And now we're going to save that file. We're going to select the base. And we got the base selected. We're going to export STL. I have 3 screens, guys, so it's showing up on a different screen. This is the base file. We are only going to do selection only. Export STL. All right, so we've just taken those two, pulled them into Blender, went into object mode, turned on wireframe, selected the base, hit P to separate the base out, enter, go back into, you can hit tab to go between edit and object mode, go back, select the object, file export STL, use selection only, save it, grab the base, save it, you're done. We don't need this file anymore. We now have split STLs. Are you guys ready? We get to talk about supports finally. Supports. Okay. Welcome to Lychee Slicer. If you are new, Lychee provides a version of their software for free. It's pretty good, but you want to get the Pro. Now, the reason I say that is because you have some extra functions that really, really let you dial in supports. So if you are learning to do this, my recommendation, 1, just get it over with now, order it. I think it's like $40 a year. It's like $4 or $5 a month, something like that. Like it's amazing. I don't know how else to say it. I used to be, and I'm not crapping on Chi2, but I used to be a Chi2 user, and a good friend of mine, Dan from Lions Tower, says, switch to Lychee, you'll never go back. And I was like, nah, man, I'm doing pretty good with this software. I like it. He says, try it out. Just do it. So I did, and I kid you not, like I won't go to anything else. So there's so many functions that exist in this software, and the dev team, they've got a Discord server. Look for their Discord server. If you post like a question or a problem, or if you find anything, their team is all over, like responding to you, trying to help you. Shout out to Alex. Alex has just been my guy. Anytime I find something, because I do pre-support, so I'm in the software all the time. If I ever see anything, I post it there. That guy gets back to me. He's had me email him files. He's looked at stuff. He's just very good. So for the price you're paying, you're getting support, but you're also getting extra functionality. So everything we're going to do in this software today, some of it you will not be able to do with Lychee Free. You're going to need Lychee Pro. So for whatever my advice is worth, grab it. It's worth it. Okay. So we're not going to dive straight in. We're not going to dive straight into supports. We need to talk about a few topics for those of us who are brand new. Now, some of you guys, you probably are like, yeah, I know the stuff. Just skip to the rest, skip to the settings. I'm good, right? Let me break down a few things, and we're going to start with a base, and then we're going to build up from the base, right? We need a basic understanding of what supports are and why. We need a basic understanding of like when to use them, how to use them. We're going to talk about settings. And then I'm just going to hammer through this fuse guy I just made, and probably get him in my printer tonight because I want to print him. So we need to start from the beginning, and the beginning is, to me, what are our priorities for doing supports? Okay. A lot of people, and let me bring Fuse in here. A lot of people will come in here and they'll go to supports and they're going to look for this auto support button. That'll be like their first thing, auto support. Click auto support, it'll take care of it. Now you can get away with it, and some people do, and there's some struggles. It's a very complex thing for software to evaluate a model like this, take everything into account that you need to take into account and handle it. It's not the optimal way to go, right? We want to be able to just take care of it ourselves, understand it ourselves, go from there. One of the main problems with using auto support is that your contact points and damage to the model can be pretty substantial if you don't have like a really good understanding of what to do. So in my opinion, TableFlip Foundry, priority number one always is we need to maintain the quality of the model, right? We don't care what the supports look like. We need to make sure that the model comes out perfect at the end. So every support you place, you don't have to, I mean, you can place 100, right? But you don't have to go priority 1, priority 2, right? But every support you place, is this going to maintain the quality of the model? Yes. The second priority, very, very big in my opinion, is it going to be easy to remove? Ease of removal. Priority number 2, ease of removal. Priority 1 and number 2 are like neck and neck, but quality is always best. If I have to take a little extra work to get it out, but the quality is perfect, that's what we're going for, guys. We want good prints, right? Number 3 and 4 are material usage. We want to have, if we can help it, we want to have like really efficient use of materials. And number 4, time usage, right? If all other things are even, just gonna run this little fix here. This model, and we'll go ahead and estimate printing time, will take 2 hours and 12 minutes standing this way. If I tilt him like this, he now only takes 1 hour and 30 minutes. So I save 30 minutes by tilting him. As long as this doesn't affect the quality of the print, totally acceptable. But if I go and I print him like this and I think the quality is going to be degraded, absolutely not. Priority number 1 must be maintained. So number 1, quality of the model. Number 2, ease of removal. You can damage your model by scratching it against supports that cross over the top of the model. And then you're damaging the model. So it ties into number 2 or number 1. And then 3, ease efficiency of material. We want this to be very efficient. Number 4, if we can get away with a shorter like print time, because that costs money. Your print screens only last so long. So if let's say I run 100 of these prints, well, that's 50 hours of extra print time I added just by tilting them up instead of back. So these are some things to consider. So when we get started in this, we're going to always keep priorities in mind, and we'll talk about that over and over and over. So, all right. So let me walk you through a few of the ins and outs of like what we're looking for when it comes to supports, and then a few of these are just going to be kind of tips and tricks for how to handle it. So first thing, you need to understand that printing on the build plate can be very problematic. It can be done. I could print this cube, but when I go and take my metal spatula and try to pry this off the build plate, I could crack edges. I could rip seams. I can damage the model by having to just remove it from the build plate. And God forbid you actually put feet on a build plate. If you try to take that model off, you'll break the feet right off, no matter how good your resin is. So we need to make sure that our model is on supports. That way we can break the supports. We don't care about those. Then the priority number one, the quality of the model is adhered to. So let's take this for example. We need to support this model. The first thing you have to do is lift the model off the build plate. And then the second thing you have to do is rotate the model the orientation that you think is going to be best. We're going to talk about ways to figure out what is best, and we're going to use this cube to sort of figure that out. My workflow personally, I use the magic button. I turn off all of these settings here. Let me move my head out of the way. And I leave the raft on. So I'm going to hand support this. I don't want auto orientation. I don't want auto supports. I don't want them optimized. I don't want bracings. I'm taking care of these things. But I don't want to forget that to add a raft. And I do want it to lift off the build plate. So very first, I raise 5 millimeters. I've never had to do anything other than 5. I see no reason to do 6. If you do 4, it can cause problems if your tips on your supports are 3 millimeter. It's come up before. So 5 millimeter is just the sweet spot. No reason to use any different. Okay, so now we have to remember everything we're printing is printing upside down, right? This is the build plate, and the build plate is upside down. So we try to keep that in mind when we're taking care of this. In order for a model to print, it is physically impossible to, Zio, if you use a 2 millimeter tip, then 4 millimeters will work. If you switch to a 3 millimeter tip on the bottom supports, it'll actually put a little bump underneath the raft, and that bump will count as the bottom, and then it doesn't print. It's really a weird thing. So as long as your lift is higher than your support tip, I can actually probably demonstrate that later, but if I don't forget. Anyway, so we physically can't print this cube floating in midair, right? It's just not that way. It's just not possible to do it that way. We have to so if we want to print it, it needs to be connected to the build plate. And the way we connect it to a build plate is by doing a support. So let's say we have this, we want to support it, we want to connect it to a build plate. Well, there we go. Donezo. That's it. But, right, we all know, I'm sure every one of us here knows, this won't work, right? The amount of surface area from the bottom of this, oh man, that's hard to hear. At the bottom of this, the support is not going to be strong enough to hold on to that part because the surface area of the part is just way too much, right? So anytime that we want to place a support, our first thought is, will the support hold up the amount of model, amount of mesh, amount of resin that we need to hold up? So the question is, will this support work? No, it definitely will not. How do we tell? Some of that's going to be trial and error, you guys. I'm going to show you some tips, but you're going to try to support a few things, and you're going to see, like, no, elbows on models, notorious for failing, right? And you're going to get a few elbows. You're going to go back and look at your file and be like, I only put 1 support there. I need 3 supports there. So that's okay. So you're going to learn that stuff the hard way, and that's just part of the process. But in this case, I can tell you for certain this won't work, right? So what would I have to do in order to make this work? I would need supports on each corner, maybe. Okay, we're getting a little better, right? I still don't think that'll work, so I'm going to need even more probably to hold it up. Maybe some of these supports are going to be like heavy supports, you know, and all of a sudden, yeah, this might work. But having all these heavy supports and all these supports down here, when you take it off the tips of those supports, you're going to see those little marks. And our goal, priority number one, quality of the print. This will probably work. It is not optimal. It is not what we want to do. So the next part we're going to talk about is how do we orient the cube so that we don't have so much surface area being printed at any given time. Well, here's a good way to start. Let's do that. So now when we place these supports, 1, 2, 3, we're not starting off with full surface area. You know, this will print a pretty solid ways up the model before, and we can actually experience this here. Right here, those supports, no problem. We work our way up, and the suction forces when the build plate pulls off the FEP sheet gets bigger and bigger and bigger. The bigger the suction force, the more torque that's put on the tips of these supports. These supports are going to give out at some point. I would wager this is about we're hollow. I didn't mean to be hollow. That's okay. This is probably about where those supports just can't handle it anymore. And then what happens is the square sticks to the FEP. If you've had a failure, you know what I'm talking about. And the supports stick to the build plate, and then the whole rest of the print is lost. So how can we fix that? We could go add some more up here to kind of compensate for. We could try to compensate for some of that suction force. So instead of 3 supports, now we have 10 or 12 or however many. My music back. This probably could do it, but what we've done is we've created more contact on these flat surfaces with support tips, and if we pull those off, we're probably going to see those marks. The settings we use, and we're going to talk about settings here in a little bit, they're going to be hard to see, but you'll still see them. What we want to do is we want to have the least amount of suction force for the longest amount of time for the amount of supports we have. So this type of orientation still isn't optimal. So what can we do to make this even more optimal? Well, we can take and rotate it on 2 axes. Axes. All right, so now we're looking at it, and instead of having a whole line, we just have the little teeny tip at the bottom, right? Throwing a support on that, no problem. I don't need 3 supports to get this print started. And what's even better is that now that we have these nice 3 hard lines, we can hide the support tips on those lines. And it will be much harder for the eye to pick up if we break these supports off the tips. So now I can add 12 supports to the model. And I know that I've given the absolute best quality possible that I can give. We're going to select all these, right click, and go to make pillar, and it's going to make them all perfectly straight down. Right? I know that I've hidden all of the possible damage that you could possibly hide because I'm hiding them on an edge. If you're looking at it this way, you only see a little, maybe even a nick of damage. And then if you turn it this way, it's half. So what I'm doing is I'm sort of sharing the visual around the edge of a cube. Now this is very likely to print with no problem. And we have the right amount of supports. And what we've done is we've looked at how much suction do I need, right? So we have suction up till here. And now these 2 supports jump in, and then here, and then this support jumps in, and this support jumps in. And all of these things as it gets more and more suction, more and more of these little friend supports jump in and try to help hold the load. And as we go up, boom, we got a cube. So what we're going to do is we're going to start there, right? That's the basis. We want to make sure our orientation is good. We need to look at our model, have some concept of what might be a good orientation. We'll do that with Fuse here in a minute. What problems are we going to come across? Like what's going to be hard to support? And then how can we do our best to maintain the quality of the model by, if we have to place a support in an open area, how can we best hide that support in some texture or in some fur or like in a crease where when you pull it out, you just never see it. We can hide them, right? There's no getting around the fact that we have to make these, but we want the fewest contacts with the model as we can have. And we want really good, solid placement that's going to hide it the best. So, all right, let's talk settings, right? In Lychee Slicer, when we go to our supports, we have light, medium, and heavy. So let's talk about when to use light, medium, and heavy. Heavy supports, we're going to go over settings, but let's talk about why heavy supports. Heavy supports are used primarily for anchors, right? We have to have anchors in order for the model to stay on the plate. The most, and I can't stress this enough, the most important part of your model is the very first layer. That very first tip right here that touches the build plate. If this fails, this model fails. There's no going around that, right? So this part right here is the most important. Sometimes it's not possible to place a heavy anchor on that part, depending on what it is. But most of the time, it's going to be the bottom of a foot, or it's going to be the bottom of a base, or you can orient in a way where you can put those heavy supports in that spot, right? So this is where we want to start off on a good foot. We want a really good heavy anchor. We want to make sure that as this thing starts pulling at some of these fatter suction areas, like look at the suction force on that layer. See all that white? All of that's touching the FEP and it's going to pull. That's a lot of area. We want a nice heavy support at the very bottom. So we're going to do this on both heels, right? Those anchors are super important. Pro tip number 1. Hey, the pun not intended. Pro tip number 1. All anchors roll deep. That means they always have at least 2 friends, right? Every anchor has 2 happy little friends, 1 and 2. But those 2 happy little friends don't need to be as big and heavy as the anchor. That we're going to rely on the anchor to do its job. Those happy little friends are going to be medium, okay? So every single time you place an anchor, you're going to drop 2 mediums next to it where you can. Then we're gonna say, okay, we know that it's the bottom of the foot, so we don't really care about contact damage. And we know that that the bottom of the feet are gonna withstand the most suction force. So from here is where we would start just kind of tossing out some mediums on each foot, and we don't really have to stress too much about how many, right? You don't want to overload it, you don't want to underload it. I always run like 5 or 6 on a foot on a regular mini. I know now that I've started with a really good anchor base. I know that if I just left it like this, I would get 2 legs that printed up till about here with no problems. Even without any other work, these legs would at least print up to here. We'd have some mushy parts because there's other stuff, but now I'm confident in our anchoring, and that's the part we need to worry about. So your heavies are going to be used 2% of the time, 1%, right? If we support this whole model, by the time we're done, it's going to be 2 heavies and no more, okay? So these are not to be used heavily, right? Use them sparingly. You will see the marks from these supports. So you hide them under feet, under underneath models, like I could probably get away with putting a heavy here on the shield. I won't because I don't need to. But like that's the bottom of the model. It's underneath. It'll be hidden. But when I break that heavy off, it's going to leave a mark. And we don't want that marks. Number one priority all the time, quality of the model. We're always going to do our best to adhere to that. Mediums. Mediums are your bread and butter. Mediums everywhere. All the places. Okay? Mediums, and with the settings that we use, mediums leave almost no contact damage at all when you pull them off. They pull off very easily. And you can use 97% of your supports are going to be mediums. Okay. Now, can a medium withstand the forces involved in this shield by itself? This is where we're going to start losing that medium support. So we need to understand that this could be a heavy, but we're going to leave a mark. Well, if in my settings a heavy is 0.40 millimeters, and a medium is only 0.28 millimeters, we know that it's going to leave a smaller mark to have a medium, but the heavy is going to hold harder. What I would rather do, and some people will be like, okay, put a heavy and then make it bigger. That's going to hold a lot more. Absolutely. It's going to hold a lot more. Yeah, Bioengineer, I am recording. I will release it to YouTube. And if you go to our Discord channel, there should be in the Twitch thing below. You click about, there's a Discord button. I think it's currently updated with the modern link. If not, we have a Facebook page. We have a YouTube, or I'm sorry, a website, just TableFlipFoundry.com. There's Discord links there. There's Facebook links there. We've got all sorts of places where we post. We don't just do like pre-supports. We also have Etsy stores, and we have all sorts of stuff. So I'll get into like bragging about what we're doing to you guys after the fact. And if you want to check out what we do, TableFlipFoundry.com. So, okay. So let's get back to this. We don't want a big heavy support anywhere on the model. We want a medium support, but we know that this model or this section is going to require more. Math is super easy, you guys. 2.28 comes out to 0.56. 0.56 is bigger than 0.40. It's going to be able to hold more. It's going to be able to hold stronger because there's more contact with the model. But because those contacts are smaller, it's going to leave less damage. So don't crank up the size of the support. Add more small ones. It leaves less damage. So we're gonna take a quick look at this shield. So here's another pro tip. You always follow the edge. Okay? So pro tip number 1, all anchored supports roll deep. Support tip number 2, always follow the edge. So what we have here is an edge of a shield, right? We're always going to take and we're going to place supports along the edge of this shield. Anytime we're finding like a nice hard edge like this that's just hanging in the air, we're going to follow it all the way to the edge. Now, so far we've only talked about placing supports, just regular supports over and over and over. The thing is this would work and there would be no problem with that, but it's not very efficient. Okay. We're using more resin to make these types of supports. So we'll get a little deeper into this here in a minute. But what we could do alternatively is create a support tree. And now we've used a little less resin, right? Now so I always refer to these in different ways. So this is a tree trunk and these are branches. So the trunk is definitely strong enough to hold up everything. It's the tip that we're worried about. So we need more tip contact. So we're going to get into exactly how I'm using these shortcuts in a little bit. But so here I only have one trunk instead of 7 trunks. So I've been able to save a little bit of resin. And if I do that across every model every time, I'm saving you guys money. you do it yourself, you're saving you money. You don't have to do it that way. And if you have Lychee, I think it's been a while since I've used Lychee free. You should be able to do that Lychee free, but you can't really edit them, I believe. You may not even be able to do them Lychee free. So if you're using Lychee free, you're going to place them like this. This is not optimal, but it'll work. Okay. So anchors always roll deep, always follow the edge. Let's have another look around here. Perfect. Right here. This loincloth or drapery Pro is definitely worth it, you guys. Definitely worth it. This drapery only has one little tip here that we're going to support. I've sort of like missed a few things, and we're going to get back to those things. So if you're like looking a little lost, still process what we're talking about. We're going to talk about islands here in a minute. We're going to go from islands to settings, and then we'll come back to the model. And then we're just actually going to do some supports. But this here is like a downward pointed tip. All downward pointed tips need a tripod. Okay, I'm going to see if I can find another one. Let's look at this axe. See this tip right here? That downward pointed tip, that needs a tripod. A tripod is where we go ahead, and I'm actually going to, this one I would make 2 light tripods. Or two light side ones. This tip here, if I didn't have the tripods, would pull off the tip of this support. It's just 2 very fine points touching and then pulling away from each other. It would pull off the top of the support. Even though we know the support can handle the weight of that, those 2 little focused points really have a very weak contact. So we want to place a smaller or a medium support just a little higher, right? Just a little higher. If we're here, those supports aren't touching, right? So here, this medium is holding all of it. And here, the other supports help out. So third rule, every time you have a downward pointed tip, we're going to use this as an example, even though it has an edge. You've got to have 3 supports with it. It will not stay. So that's our third tip. Let's step back and talk about how do I know where to place these supports. All right. There's a term in the biz, in the community, and we refer to that term as islands. So you can see over here on the right, I'm kind of like scrubbing through the layers of the model. Well, what happens is when I scrub through the layers, I'm going to hide these supports, is we're going to eventually, see right there, we're going to see a little bit of the model start to show. That one has supports. Let's go to one that doesn't have supports. Actually, let's just remove these. We don't need those. Okay. So we are going to, we started off at the bottom of the foot, placed our support, worked our way up. See this one here? We call this an island. It looks like an island in a big sea of gray, right? These islands indicate a point that will fail without a support. All right. Now here's where the Lychee Pro comes in. Lychee has a built-in island detector. With Lychee Free, I think you get normal detail is the highest you get. Normal will get you there, but what we really want is we want real detail. We want the detector to detect all of the islands it can. That's where that real detail comes in. So this island detector, and this is actually something a lot of people don't know. Even pro guys don't know this. This island detector works specifically based on the settings of your resin. So if you have, let's say right here, I have my Anycubic Mono, I have 50 microns. And then I run this island detector at 50 microns. it's going to detect 61 islands on this model. Okay, great. I know every single one of these red dots must have a support. Must. Right? Just because I put a support in this one and it goes away doesn't mean I don't need more. But if there's a red dot, it has to be supported. It will either fail or lose detail. Now, I did this scan at 50 microns, though. There are more islands here that we didn't know about. So what we want to do is we want to go to 25 microns and do a scan. Now, I bet you we find more than 60 islands doing this scan. It takes a little longer because it's got to work a little bit more. Now I got 77 islands. I got 17 islands out of nowhere. Well, that's because when you're printing at a certain layer height this big, it's not considered an island. But once your layer height's thinner, those islands and details require support to them. So 50, a scan of 50, you'll get a perfectly fine print from a scan of 50. For work that we do for our pre-support work, we run the scan at 25. We want to make sure we get as much of that detail. Like when we look at the Red Clay Collectibles model, the amount of detail that model has is astronomically good. And the amount of work that went into getting that detail to that point, it's absolutely like a guy put in some really solid work to make those details. And I could undo all of that work by not taking care of placing the supports, right? So we want to make sure we do a scan. I scan at 25. You can scan at 50 if you're happy with it. I'm not telling you it's wrong. I just prefer the higher level of detail for the scan. So, okay, now we understand what islands are. Every island must be supported, but just because you got rid of the red dot does not mean it's enough, right? There's a red dot on the foot. Is that going to be enough? We already know it's not enough. That needs to be an anchor, and that needs to have 2 friends. So we already know at least 3 supports on that part. So what we end up having to do is calculating the amount of resin each support we place has to hold up. So let's look at a smaller detail. Let's look at it under the layer height. This is a really fine detail. I don't think I can actually get. There's the island. And then, okay, so this is layer 224. At layer 225, it already connects to the model, right? If it's connected to the model and the model's connected to the build plate, then it's good. But what will happen if I don't place a support here on this island is this island won't print, this layer won't print, this layer won't print, and it'll just turn into a pancake. And then the pancake will get picked up by the model, right? So it probably wouldn't look that bad if you were really looking at it, but we're going to lose that detail. Some guy went in and took the time to make that detail, and by not adding a support there, we're going to lose it. So we want to make sure we go in. But we also know that, man, that is, if you really put that in your head, like if you imagine a millimeter, and then imagine that our medium support tips are just shy of 1/3 of that, and then you look at this tip and you realize it's about half of that, like we're not talking a big detail, and we don't need a medium support to hold up this fraction of like a milliliter. Like it's almost no detail at all. So we don't need like a huge support here. So this is where the lights come in. We want to put a light support on this model. Now I have a light setting, but this setting is interchangeable. I change this every time I place it based on where I'm placing it. In this case, even 0.22 is probably too big. Look how fat my tip of my support is compared to the island, right? The support, breaking the support off is just going to get rid of that detail. So I want to take that maybe down to 0.12 so we can get a little more of that detail in there. And really, we know that a 0.12 is going to work because look how much it's holding up. It's like nothing. See, I missed the island there. There we go. And we know it's holding up basically. Now it's being held by the model. So the only work that this support tip had to do was 2 layers. That's it. So we don't need a big support for that. And that type of calculation is what we're going to try to do every time we find an island. So let's move up to where we see an island here. This shield is an island. Look how much weight that has to be supported. Like, how far does it go before it touches something? Right? This is all still part of that one island. There we go. It didn't even attach. Might have attached to the model there. Right? We know this one island can't support that. This island. Oops. This island. Those islands aren't enough. We know that. We just know the forces are going to be too strong. Also, these are still lights. Let's change these to mediums. It's still not strong enough, right? We always got to chase the edge. We got to chase the edge here a little bit. Give it a little extra support. I'm going to chase the edge here. We'll give it another one here just to help it out. This will hold up the shield. Okay? This will definitely hold up the shield. There's definitely an island down here. Look at this. There's the island. I got to have a support there. Now, do I need a big one? No, not at all. Is that one big enough? I don't know if I trust it, right? How about we do this? We put one here, and we put one here, and we put one here. Well, I feel like that's going to do it, you know? Like, maybe even just a 2. And some of this is just going to be trial and error for you. You're gonna try it. You're going to go back and look. You're going to be like, yeah, I'm starting to get the feel for it. I'm starting to get the feel for, you know, these 2 will work. This one won't work. I'm going to add a couple little friends here just to back it up a little bit, right? So we know this detail has been added. It could flatten out. It could, I mean, it's under the shield. Nobody will ever see it, especially you paint it, put it on a table. Nobody will see it, but that's not the point, right? Anything worth doing is worth doing right. So really, you're going to start at the base. You're going to run your real island detector on 0.25 for me, or 0.025 for me. I'm going to look at how many islands I have. I'm going to evaluate, is that good? Absolutely. That's perfectly fine for that island. Is that good? Absolutely. I'm using my medium setting. I know it's good. That one's good. Absolutely. How about this one? Yeah, totally. This one here, that won't work. It's not enough. It's a downward pointed tip. Every downward pointed tip needs to have a tripod. So I feel like that would work right there. This one here, that'll work. Is this optimal? No. So let's make it a little more optimal. Okay, yeah. Now we're on the way. And then we just keep working our way up the model. Okay. Let's talk about settings. I've got a little cheat sheet I made for you guys. This is my cheat sheet. These are the settings that I use for all of my pre-support work. All of it. Light, as I said, is interchangeable. I go from 0.22 to 0.18 to 0.15 usually, right? Somewhere in that range. Those are very, very fine tips. You use them on very, very small details. So just always take into account how big that island is, and then make sure your tip size accounts for that extra weight. Mediums, that's our bread and butter. Bread and butter. 0.28 works perfect. You could go with a 0.3. I don't think that the 0.2 of a millimeter makes that much of a difference. I run 2/8. Works across the board. I love it. 0.40s for the anchor. Remember, we're only using a couple anchors. 0.40 is enough to leave a mark on the model. But remember, it's not a big one. Some people like to use 5s, 0.5s, and 0.6s. Why would we use a 0.5 when we can use a 0.4 with 2.28s and leave less damage, right? So we always try to keep track of how much contact we're having. and how much damage to the model. I always use a 2mm tip length. There are times where it's more convenient not to, but I change those on individual scenarios. For the most part, 2mm tip length. One last thing you're going to notice that I do, and it has nothing to do with structure. My lights have a 0.9mm. Let's look at what those look like. We're going to add a couple supports to the shield here. So medium, heavy, light. When I'm working on a model, I can tell the difference. In fact, I'm going to change my light. I haven't changed my light. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. Excuse me. When I'm supporting and I'm throwing supports everywhere, I need to see what's going on in a certain place. The only reason I have these different sizes is so that I can visually see which support it is without having to click it and look, right? I could go through and place a bunch of mediums, a bunch of lights, right? Here's a bunch of lights. Here's some heavies. And without having to click on any of these, I already know which supports are which. That's a weird one. This one's a heavy. This one's a light. Heavy. Medium. A light one here. You see, I don't have to click and check and then click and check and then click and check. I know what I place. So the reason I have these diameters slightly smaller. 0.8 works, 0.9 works. It's just smaller than 1. And this one's just bigger than 1. So I can tell the difference between those supports. Yeah, if you want to screen grab this, get my head out of the way. Screen grab that. And I swear, just use these and it's going to work great. Let me give you a scenario that some people don't fully understand. Now, we do pre-supports at TableFlip Foundry, and there are other companies out there that also do pre-supports, okay? Other companies or other individuals will do their supports, and their settings are not the same as ours. They might use a heavier medium and a heavier heavy. So here's the trouble that most people don't understand, and why some people will have some success with some pre-support companies and some people have success with other pre-support companies. Pre-supports only work if your settings are set to work with them. Okay? So we're going to go on a little tangent, just a short tangent. We're going to talk about exposure and what that means when it comes to supports. All right? When you expose a model, exposure time is how long the light on your printer is on. When you expose a model too much, okay, this model is supposed to be, by the time we're done, exactly 34.66 millimeters tall. It's supposed to be 26.65 millimeters in wide axis and 21 millimeters. Vroom settings will, if you're already messing with Vroom, then you're beyond needing any of my instruction. Like if you're messing with it, you don't know what you're doing, you shouldn't be. If you're messing with it, you do know what you're doing, there's nothing I'm teaching you today. So the idea is that when you expose your model, you want the final model to come out the exact size that it was intended, right? A perfect exposure will leave this model exactly this size. Now that perfect exposure is impossible to get, right? We can get super close, but if the temperature in a room changes, your exposure changes, and that will happen in the middle of a print. It's impossible to get perfect, but the perfect exposure is when an object is made and its dimensional accuracy is perfect, okay? The thing about that is nobody knows what that is, right? it's very, very hard to really get your printer dialed in to know exactly what that is. You know, you could be a machinist and you can be very particular and you can print it and get your calipers out and you can measure like the calibration cubes. But for the most part, most people aren't like that, right? They just want to know if it prints or it doesn't print. The problem is, if let's say my settings are lower than this. Let's say I use, instead of a 2.8, I use a 2. And instead of a 2.2, I use a 0.12, right? And then my support tips are very weak. If I go to print them with my current settings, they're going to fail, right? If I up my exposure, right? And by upping my exposure, I also make the model slightly bigger. I also make the support tips slightly bigger. And now we're not talking about a 0.12 support tip. We overexposed it. Now it's a 2.2 support tip, right? So the settings on your printer are equally as important as the supports that are on there, okay? So the settings I'm giving you is based on a collection of data our company has collected from a series of trusted people who print, okay? So we'll go to professional printers. We'll say, hey, print this model. Give us your results. They report back, hey, you print this model, give us your results. They report back. We took a collection of that data and we said, okay, we have this idea before we do our supports on what we expect a good exposure to be, as close to the perfect exposure as we can get. Then we tune our supports to match that, okay? So if, let's say you go to Red Clay this month, right? You guys, this thing I'm going to show you here in a little bit, mind blowing. But let's say you go this month, you need this model, okay? And you go and you grab it, and we did the supports, and you run it through your printer, and it is like breaking, like you have to peel it out of our supports, right? You just have to like wrench it out, and there's damage everywhere. So the thing I want to relay to you is that it's not the support's fault. It has to do with your settings, right? So what happened most likely is that your exposure was too high, and you made the tips of those supports really fat with that overexposure. And then it became really hard to break off because you had really dense tips. Let's say alternatively, you go and you print, and the leg doesn't print. It turns into a pancake. The shield never printed. It turned into a pancake. The chances are your exposure is low. And so you're going to want to turn your exposure up. Those tips that went from a 0.28 exposed at like a 0.2. And all of a sudden, what we thought was holding is not holding on your printer. So it's really important to understand that your settings are just as important to your success printing as the pre-supports are. So you can see all over the place like, oh man, those pre-supports are bad, or no, those pre-supports are great. Well, I tried those pre-supports and they didn't work for me. That has everything to do with everybody sort of being on different pages when understanding exposure and how it works. So we're not going to let the cat out of the bag yet, but TableFlip Foundry is working on a new type of calibration specifically designed to help everybody figure out what that exposure is. And that calibration is specifically designed to bear no opinions, right? Have you guys ever seen where a person posts a picture and it's like the validation? I actually have one here. I'm not crapping on anybody with this. It's just one that I found, and they had done this exact thing where they had posted this. This was a post. They posted over on ePax. They said, I'm not very good at reading these XPS doodads. This is X, Y, and Z. What do you guys think? Is this right? A calibration part that doesn't tell you if you're calibrated is not a very good part. So we're working on a brand new idea to help you guys know for a fact, no opinion. Like a person may respond to that and be like, oh, it looks good to me. Another guy's going to say, oh, it looks a little overexposed. Another guy's like, oh, it looks underexposed. And so like it's three different people's opinions. So what the heck is this guy supposed to do? What nobody ever took into account is that all we care about is dimensional accuracy. We need that exposure to be as close to exactly what the sculpt was. All right. So we're currently in a testing phase. We took on like 10 testers this week that are just cramming this new calibration process out. We're trying to figure out if there's anything weird about it, anything confusing about it, if the end result actually turns out into a good print. So far, we've had really good results. So just keep your eyes open for us to release that soon. It's going to be totally free to the community, but that standard is designed to be a new standard for everyone to adhere to, right? No more opinions. Run this part, make the part work the way it's supposed to, and then go forth and print, my son. You know what I mean? Just like be happy, know you've got a good tune. If you're starting to see issues with some pre-supports, keep in mind those pre-supports might be heavy because they're used to people underexposing. Those supports might be light because they're used to people overexposing, right? Those supports weren't tuned for like the perfect exposure. A lot of times, excuse me, a lot of times what takes place, and it's something we've had to contend with. Atlas has to contend with it, right? They say, well, this model is going to go out to 10,000 people. We have to make sure it prints on the most printers. So they'll beef up the supports because we want it to work on the most printers. Excuse me. We never address the fact that people are not exposing their printers right. So that I can't stress enough. I know this is a pre-support class, but I can't stress enough how important calibrating your printer is when it comes to doing your supports. Your supports will fail if your exposure is wrong. So be on the lookout for that soon. I'm hoping to drop it in the near future. It's going to come with a free model, and I'm going to showcase that for you guys tonight. So I really wanted to try to keep this under 2 hours. I tend to overtalk, so I apologize. Let's have a quick peek and do a little support work on Red Clay Collectibles next set. I've got it pulled up here. Actually, while I'm pulling it up, let me tell you guys a little bit about them. I do have the fine pleasure of doing some of their pre-supports for them. But not only that, is I have been so blown away at the level of quality of these sculpts that like it's a new Patreon. I think they're in their fourth month now. Just people don't know about it. And it's just mind blowing to me, the level of quality that these sculpts are being put out at. This is the current month. Like if you like orcs and I love samurai. Like if you love samurai, you literally have to go get this right now. I test printed these in person. They are just amazing. The level of detail is killer. It's just a cool and creative set. Anyway, they have a tribes if you're into the tribes thing. They also have a Patreon if you're into the Patreon thing. Jump in there. Just trust me. It's just killer. So this new stuff is that we're going to look at today is a set of nulls that are coming out for Red Clay. Let me find the file we're going to work on. So this one is a null captain. And I saved this one for last because I was just so impressed. I was just so impressed with the work. I didn't want to give it away too soon. And null, like who doesn't need nulls? Like every D&D game needs like kobolds, gnolls, and goblins, right? In order to run your game. Any random encounter, any DM in the world is going to need a solid set of nulls. And there are some good nulls out there, but I don't think there are nulls like this out here. Like, look at this dude. Yeah, man. Look at the detail in this thing. I tell you, it's hard to support this much detail. Right? But look at that. Like, there's nothing out there like that. Right? So if you haven't found this Like if you haven't seen a post from Jesse, if you haven't seen a post from us, let this, like, you're wrong. Like, you need to correct yourself. You need to go and check this out because it's killer. I'm going to show you some of the less extravagant nulls. The more they're a little more like not a hero or not an NPC, but more generic. So here's a guy with a sword. And even the more like generic nulls, like the ones you can just throw out anywhere without having to like give them a name or write up a whole stat block for them because they're the bad guy. Like, are you freaking kidding me? Look at this. Like, just killer. Like, fur is hard to do. As a sculptor, fur is killer. So, I mean, just some absolutely... He's got some, I think they're mostly pirates. I mean, they could double as anything, really. It just all comes down to how you paint them or how you play them. But I think this one has a javelin, a spear. What do you call those? What are these called in the ocean? You shoot it with a gun. I don't remember. Anyway, super cool. Definitely pirate-esque. He's wearing the bandana and the harpoon. That's it. Harpoon. Belling coming in hot. I love it. So yeah, these are just, and it's a full set. Not sure how many there are. I want to say the set this month has like 16 or 7. Like the amount of content you're getting is really solid. It's like less than $1 a mini. 16. Yeah, 16. And it costs what, $10? $10, you guys. What's that come out to? Like 70 cents a mini. I'm just gonna go, let's do this. Look at this. For one, go back and look at the rest of the stuff because they're killer. But look at this. I hope I'm not overselling this, you guys. Like, look at this, $5 for this guy. And this is a good sculpt. Like, nothing against this art, but it costs you $5 to go get this. It's like 70 cents a mini. Yeah, and you can go, like, Jesse's got his own Discord. The Red Clay people, like, I hear they're super good people. Super helpful, like, lots of fun over there. So, anyway, let's take a look at this Null Captain, because he is badass. All right, he's loading up. So what I'm going to do is just sort of like, we've got sort of the gist. Like, what are we looking for? We're looking for islands. What are the little, like, tips and tricks? What are the priorities, right? We've kind of hammered all that out. What I'm going to do with this model, and it'll take me too long to do for the rest of the stream, is I'm just going to start doing supports like I normally would. I'm going to go through my workflow. Before I do that, I'm so sorry. I missed one extra little thing I want to get you guys here. So I have a nice little tips and tricks. Nice little tips and tricks. I didn't set up a way. I'm just going to show you guys. Okay. I didn't set up a way to demonstrate it to you guys like on stream in a way that's it's part of like a private Discord server, and I don't want to throw that on stream. But let me show you a couple of tips. We're gonna use this elbow here for supports. Okay, let's have a look here. All right, left click, place a support, medium. If you hold Alt and left click where you want the support, and then left click where you want the branch to land on the trunk, then this is how you're doing these like efficient but strong branches. Yeah, you know, Dot, I really wanted to do that tonight, and I just got to talking a lot, and really in the future what I need to do is just put together a really solid curriculum where I don't miss stuff. But I'm going to go over a few shortcut keys for you guys at the very least, and kind of give you some cool tricks. So let's do this again. This is left click, holding Alt and left clicking where you want it, and left clicking the branch, this will give you a nice, strong, sturdy support. Okay, so that's Alt click. If we want to create what I call a twig, we're going to hold Alt and Control and then left click and create a twig. All right, so I like to refer to them as trees. It's really easy to call out the names of them, right? So I click the trunk, I click the twig, I click the branch. Okay, now this is also referred to as a mini support in Lychee. This on light will likely not do what you would like it to do, meaning it's just too thin, it's barely going to print, it's not going to hold up any weight. And what we would want to do is beef up the base of this twig here. And the way we do that is we go up to base tip, and then we go to tip diameter, and we crank that sucker up. Now that's going to support. Yep, that's coming up next. So that's how you place a twig. Now, let's say, for example, we want to... I'm going to try to find like a... Here, let's look at his cape here. I don't know what to call it, right? Let's say we're going to place a support. I want to find... There we go. Let's say we're going to place a support here. But we know that we have to support along the edge, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to hold Control Alt, and we're going to play... Actually, we want this to be medium. We're going to place a medium twig, and we're going to crank up the base tip so it's nice and fat. Now here's the money right here. This is what Julian was just saying. If you hold Alt and Shift, what that will do is that will attach your next support to the base of the previous support. So when you see guys doing pre-supports and they're throwing out fans, what they did is they held Alt Shift while they clicked and made that fan. So we don't need to put a full support on all of these. And let's say we're just trying to like keep the shape of this. Not so much hold it up, but keep the shape. What we'll do is we'll make sure that this is holding it up and this is holding it up. But I'm now going to make a twig, and I'm going to make it light, and I'm not up the size of the twig. So now what I'm doing is I'm not necessarily holding up the part. I'm just making sure the shape of the part is held out. Let's talk about what I'm doing here and why this is wrong. This is not good, right? We can't have this shallow of an angle. It needs to be much steeper. It will probably print, but by the time we get to the tip, it's providing no support. So what I do in these cases is I do a little fan, drop another support, and then do another little fan. And then another little fan. So instead of just running one single one all the way across, I'm trying to keep these as vertical, like printing from the build plate up, as I possibly can get away with. That doesn't mean you can't go reaching like somewhere deep on a model and do something like this. You can definitely do that, but you run the risk of that not providing the support you want. And so what you'll end up needing to do is running maybe a couple of them out there. So here's like another pro tip. This single one is starting to lose control of this camera. This single one has a very, very thin, like there's not much volume to it. When you put three side by side like that, they mesh together. And so from the base of the tree all the way up to about this point, you had one really fat chunk of resin that was printed together. And so it's going to provide a lot of stability. So your twigs are really only starting here and then going off to the part. You see what I mean? So even though I'm running them a really long way, because I overlapped those three and ran them that far, the three twigs supported each other all the way to the point where they finally started to separate out. and become their own twigs. So if you have to run a long support like that, you want to try to have it at this, the most vertical angle you could get away with, right? And then if you have to do it that long, it's really good to like bunch these up so they're supporting each other. Okay, so that's another type of support, right? We did, let's recap. We did left click, we did alt left click. Okay, even with the branches, you can shift alt and do the same thing with the branches as we did with the other ones, where it will anchor to the last place you did. I use that all the time. We did control alt for a twig. We changed the tip diameter of the twig big, so that's got a nice fat base. Alt shift to place fans, right? You can kind of place whatever you want wherever you want. Let's look at another really, really helpful thing. If you're having to like see how far that support had to reach in there. I clicked it by accident, but we're going to use it, right? That's a really long angle for that to try to print. And we're going to want to beef it up a little bit with some extra support. The way we would do that, right? We're going to create a branch. And the way we're going to support this branch a little extra is by holding Alt. And you can see it's snapping to the branch and the trunk. If I double click this, it's now created an extra trunk for that branch. So on this one, if I had to reach all the way out there like this, I could come under here and drop a little extra support so that when it finally gets to the model, it's got a little extra trunk attached and keeps it nice and strong. Okay, so that's the other option. You hold Alt and click the trunk or the branch. If I only single click, it'll allow me to create another option. I can support one tree to another tree. So these are called bracings. They have bracing options in Lychee right here, where it'll just create these braces. This is great when you have very, very tall supports that go a really long way. If I'm supporting this hat and it's all the way up there, that's a long way for one support to be hanging out in the wind while we're trying to get these supports going. Anytime I have something really tall like that, I throw a little friend up there. I just throw a little friend up there and hit the bracings button, right? I'm not worried about the extra contact because we know our supports and our tune is really good for our print. But having that extra brace is only going to ensure that that support that I did need is going to be strong all the way up until it reaches the end. So bracings are definitely useful. Well, what we can do is we can create a single brace by holding Alt on one trunk and clicking on another trunk. We can use that really creatively. Let's say there are some really hard places to get into, right? We want to get here. We want to get underneath this neck somehow. We're having a hard time with it. This isn't hard like I'm describing, and none of this you're not gonna put a support through a model. But let's say, for example, we had like a difficult area to reach. Well, what if I just put a support across something like that, and then I put my little branches right off that little support piece? Right? I can start creating this little advanced structure that both is stronger than just having it separate, but also gives me a place to pull a little more support off of and also have that extra stability. I can get really creative with these advanced structures, trying to get into really tight places or really hard to reach places, tucked underneath a thing, or like an arm that reaches over like really hard and we got to get up underneath there. We can use these advanced structures to sort of like build a platform that we can then support off that platform. So using these tools, right? It's Alt, it's Shift Alt, and it's Control Alt and click, and you'll start to get a feel for placing those supports. In Lychee Pro only, you've seen me do this a number of times. If you hit space bar, you get an advanced mode. the advanced mode is where we can start to really dial in how we want to shape some of these supports, right? So if we need to get all the way from the ground all the way up under his chin, right? Do you see how high it went to get there? Well, that created a very shallow angle, and I might want a steeper angle in order to reach that. So I can hit space, grab the joint, and move the joint down, and now I've changed that to a much more vertical angle. It's an angle that I think would hold stronger. All right. Now let's say we need to get right under here somewhere, like under his collar. Let's look here. Like maybe we need to get up under here somewhere, and it's just really hard to get the support in there. It doesn't happen to be in this case, but let's say it is, right? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to place a support on the top of the hat. I'm going to hit edit. I'm going to move my joint, and then I'm going to move the tip of my support where I need it. So I can manipulate this particular like support in a way that gets me there because I can control those advanced like joint manipulation. You only get this with Lychee Pro. I keep mixing it up. Lychee Pro. The other thing that I'm doing that you can use that is so valuable if you've never seen it. I want to have a fan that goes up under his chin here to touch on all of these the little fur, right? Well, I don't want to keep running supports under here, right? And using twigs is going to get a little funky because of the thickness of this support. Sometimes what I need to do is I need to reach a support way up in there, and then I need a bunch of twigs to come off of it. So the way we do that is we hold control while manipulating a joint, and it will hold that joint in place. If we hold control while manipulating the tip, it will force that tip to stand in space and not snap to the model. If I don't and I move it, it's always, see how it snaps to the model? No matter what I do, it's always on the model. See, it's on the model there. It's on the model there. If I hold control, I can take that and break it off the model and leave it there. And now that tip is just floating in place. Now, how can we use this to our benefit? We can take this tip and we could make it a trunk by changing the tip diameter to 1 millimeter. So now what we've done is we've created ourselves a little platform that we can then start launching all of our little tips off of. And we can get this trunk anywhere we need it in order to make this convenient for me to start launching all of these twigs off of. So this little trick is something not a lot of people do and not a lot of people know of, is that this is actually a support tip that I made 1 millimeter big, but I forced it out into space in a location that was super convenient for me, right? Like down here. And now that it's down there, I have this like ability to start pulling supports off the tip of it. Right? So that's a Lychee Pro option. You can't do that in the free version. So like I said, by the time we're done, if I haven't convinced you to go and like sign up for Lychee Pro, let me make this even better for you. Lychee Pro has this like printer organization where they already have most printers. I know every new printer that comes out, it takes them a little while. And then the ones with the Chi2 boards, like there seems to be like something coming out. I guess Chi2 is getting an SDK, and then Lychee is going to have access to like work with those boards. I think the pushback on that was pretty bad. So, but here I have all of my printers And each printer, I have specifically tuned certain resins. I just got my Aligu Saturn. The only resin I've ever printed is this YTech Standard Gray. So it allows me to choose printer and resin, and it keeps the settings for the resin for that printer. So these are all printers I have. The only one that's not on the list is my Photon. It's sitting on the floor. I don't use it anymore. But because I have so many different types of printers and I use so many different types of resins, like the way that Lychee handles figuring out which resin, which printer, which setting, which wear, done. I don't use any particular one the most because of the type of work I do, but for all of my miniature production minis that I send out for Etsy, I use the Sonic Mini 4K because it has the finest pixel density, or not density, the finest pixel size, because it's a 4K on like that small screen. Now the Sonic Mini does it, but the rest of these have a 4K screen, but it's blown up, so the pixel sizes are bigger. If I'm printing any large format or large model, like an Ogre or something like that, I'll send it on one of these big printers at like a 0.05 layer height. But anything, you can print at 0.05 for all of your work, and you're going to be very happy with it. But when I'm sending a product out, any product, whether it's pre-supports or it's products for my Etsy store, I send out the best product I can produce, and so I print everything with the highest detail I can produce. So the Sonic Mini is the highest detail I can produce, and you'll notice I only have 0.25 layer height for the Sonic Mini. Right? Those are my go-to for detail. If I'm printing, I actually have some stuff I wanted to show you guys. This is just for fun. I was going to find a way to work it into class, but I set up like a little extra camera for you guys. And hopefully it's still turned on and working. Right here. Hey, look at that. This is one of those knolls. Check out that sucker. I can get real close to the camera here. Check out that bad. But look at the detail in that. Isn't that nuts? Look at that. Freaking crazy. Oh, did I echo? I'm sorry. You need your webcam. Oh, shit. Sorry. One moment. I don't know how to fix that. Sorry, guys. I'm not really sure how to fix that. I didn't know I was going to do that. Let me... Man. I wonder if I can mute it. I'll stop talking about this. Was it too loud? I'll talk quieter. This is so loud. I don't know how to mute that sound. I'm really sorry, guys. If it's really bad, I'm really sorry. Anyway, I did want to show you this. Hopefully it's not too bad. Okay, alright, cool. I printed this earlier today. This is for Nikki's Hatchery. So I wanted to show you... Man, I really wish I wasn't doing that. I'm so sorry, guys. I just wanted to show you the result of pulling supports off and what kind of damage it does. So you can kind of see, like, look at his hands. His hand has supports. So there's little tips on there when you look super close. But, like, that's with these settings. So our end result, it's not a very large camera area, comes out with like a really solid... I didn't really clean this up. I just popped it off with one hand. A really solid detail that doesn't... See, there's not very much... I mean, I can get really close to this. There's almost not a lot of perceivable damage from the supports. Yeah, let's look at some of these just while I got them. I'll shut up and just kind of show you a few. Check this out. Look at that knoll. You need that knoll, you guys. Look at him. Here's another one. Look at his teeth. Teeth are very hard to support, you guys. Look at those teeth. Let's see. Here's one of the a little chain, anchor chain. So yeah, these are coming out, I think, December. This is the December release for Red Clay. So, okay, I think that's it. I don't think I left anything out. And if I left something out, join our Discord, ask me any questions you want. I am more than happy to share with you guys. That's pretty much it. I got a couple things coming out soon. We have been working on an it's like an auto support workflow for those of you who don't want to go through the whole process of supporting stuff by hand. It's like 90% good. You're gonna have to put a little bit of work in it to make sure you like get everything that needs to be got. But I have come up with a new workflow that I'm going to be releasing soon. Just requires a little more testing, as well as this calibration part. We're working super hard on it. We want to make sure it's perfect, or as close to perfect as we can get it before we release it to you. But it is coming, and it's, yeah. Thanks. Yeah. Thank you so much, you guys. It's coming. Keep an eye out for it. We're going to share it. I think we might be able to get a couple of YouTube videos on it too. We're pushing it really hard. Oh, one more thing before I go. Oh, I'm so excited. I just showed this off the other day, but I want to show you guys since you were nice enough to come and hang out with me. We got our mascot modeled by Velrock Art, and I want to show you guys. It is... I'm just super excited. I just got to figure it out here. It is in this folder. Are you guys ready? I know you guys are ready. So this is I've got it. I'm loading. I'd like to introduce you guys to Puck the Dragonborn. So this little guy is going to be free with our calibration part, and he will be your like calibration validator print. So after you finish calibrating with our part, you're going to print Puck to make sure it all worked out great for you, and then you get to keep him for free as a little reminder of TableFlip Foundry. And yeah, so I'm so excited. I showed everybody on our Discord, but I don't think I showed too many other people. So guys, thanks so much. I know I ramble a lot. I will work harder to sort of dial everything in. We will do somebody requested an FDM print class. So I have I have 9 FDM printers, but some of these YouTube videos out here are guys who are just a level above my knowledge set, but I print all the time. I do a lot of it. There's plenty of tips I can teach you about, you know, leveling your bed and how to make it work right, and tips and tricks and what you should and shouldn't do. So I might try to put a class like that together. I think most of you guys are probably pretty experienced, so you're not going to need a beginner class. But if you know anybody who's thinking about, has just bought their first printer, who's like curious about, I will do another fundamentals of 3D printing class sometime soon, which like breaks it down. Like, this is how the printing system works. This is what the UV light does. This is what the screen does, all of that stuff. So I really, really want to help our community grow and get better, and make, like, if you guys have been around for the last year, you've seen this community and this hobby grow in quality, and we need to keep that going. We need to help each other out. We need to help each other with questions. We need to improve our settings. We need to improve our supports. So thank you so much, you guys, for hanging out with me. And I know it's 2 hours is a long time, but it means the world to me that you came and you showed up and you gave me support. And I really hope I taught you something cool. Come see me if you have any questions. I love you guys. Have a good night. Bye.